destroy everything you touch, Megatron.
Because everything I touch is food for my hunger for power!
No, I'm going to end your hunger once and for all.
Almost, Prime, but almost doesn't get the job done. You can't stop me!
You're old, Megatron. Yesterday's model, ready for the scrap heap.
We'll see who's ready for the scrap heap.
Junk! That's what you are. Junk!
Silence!
Hello and welcome to this review of Transformers' masterpiece Megatron. I'm Chris McLeod, aka Diagnostik80, and I will be thug pumping my way through this video today to show you this brand new Takara Tomy product sponsored by In Demand Toys. Let's start with a quick background of the character. When it comes to iconic villains in cartoon, comics or toy properties, there have been some pretty big ones. Cobra Commander of G.I. Joe fame, Skeletor from Masters of the Universe, Miles Mayhem from Mask, the Joker, the Shredder, the list goes on and on here, and we've got a lot to get through, so I will stop wasting time and move on. Now, I will be doing a top 10 villains list a few videos down the road, and I have a feeling that the next character will be high up on there. When you have iconic Boy Scouts like Optimus Prime, then you need an equally matched antithesis of a bad guy to create a believable conflict. You don't get much bigger than Prime versus Megatron. No matter the iteration, Megatron has been a huge force in almost all of the incarnations of the brand. He has had many different looks and reinventions over the years, which is why I am sticking to the figures that closely resemble the classic gun or bot mode in this history. When he gets a masterpiece of his Generation 2 tank or Beast Wars T-Rex, then I will cover those in more detail. Hint hint, Takara. Plus the Beast Wars Megs is a different character anyway. As I've mentioned before, the original Transformers toys were taken from pre-existing lines, and Megatron was no exception. Takara released a few different gun robos in 1983 for the Micro Change line, including the 1910 Browning, Smith & Wesson Magnum 44, and the model that would eventually become Old Greg Megs.
Who are you? I'm Old Greg. Pleased to meet you.
The P-38 Walther. First introduced in this black and brown deco, he got a repaint for the P-38 Uncle, named after the popular TV show at that time, The Golden Girls. I mean, the man from Uncle. And that would become the same paint job that Megatron would adorn in the G1 toy line in 1984. The man behind the mythos, names and character bios of the Transformers, Bob Budiansky, has said that the name Megatron is a combination of the words megaton and electronic. He also claims he wasn't aware of the character by the same name in the Marvel Universe, and even said Hasbro turned the idea down initially, saying they felt the word mega conjured up feelings of nuclear war.
Yeah. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Yeah. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Say it again, y'all.
But Budiansky talked them around by highlighting the fact the character was supposed to be a bad guy. Makes sense. Where this particular toy excelled was in the characterization in the cartoon. This helped to give a voice to the otherwise mute toy and a character to the play patterns kids would have when they bashed them together, like the Dawn of Man scene in Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey. Frank Welker famously gave his voice to Megatron in the cartoon, and I haven't been able to accept any other voice for the character since. Because I'm an old stubborn bastard.
I am Megatron, leader of the Decepticons.
Hugo Weaving had a cool gravelly tone in the first live-action film as Welker was overlooked.
Is it fear or courage that compels you, fleshling?
But he returned to do a number of other voices in Revenge of the Fallen.
Decepticons, mobilize.
and now he's back as Megatron in The Last Knight. He also appeared in the 1986 movie until Leonard Nimoy took over Galvatron's voice during the old transition Unicron made him go through. Welkers is certainly the voice I hear when I display them in an adult, mature manner. And it does say a lot that he is back in the helm for the newest film. Interestingly enough, during pre-production for the cartoon, Megatron's design was based on concept art of the character rather than the existing toy. He had a different black head and a different scope/fusion cannon, which amazingly made it into licensed products, commercials, and the Marvel comic, who changed the head to blue. The design was changed for the cartoon, and the Marvel comics kept the blue head. IDW used the black colour of the old design in flashbacks and changed to silver to portray aging. Just like Prime, he had elements to his transformation that would appear on and disappear off screen when he transformed. The extended barrel and stock would always be seen when Megs was in gun mode on the show. Another interesting point, and something that has been a thorn in the side of many Transformer fans, is the fact Megatron becomes smaller when he turns into his P-38 Walther mode, so that other Decepticons can fire him. Ignoring the fact he has a f***ing fusion cannon already attached to his arm, which seems pretty hardcore on its own, he also mass displaces somehow. The science has been explained in numerous ways, but basically it's just a cool concept that is better left untouched for now. The cartoon made Megatron a classic warmongering villain, hell-bent on securing the lifeblood that makes the Autobots and Decepticons tick in the first place, Energon. In the cartoon continuity, Megatron restarted the Autobot-Decepticons civil war 9 million years prior, that's a pretty long war, and fatally wounded a dock worker called Orion Pax. He would be rebuilt into, yes, you guessed it, Jar Jar Binks. Optimus Prime, leading into one of the most epic battles in fake history ever. During an escape from Cybertron by the Autobots, Megatronic Teenage Warhead and his forces boarded their enemy's ship, the Ark, and attacked them. Whilst in battle, the Ark crashed into prehistoric Earth, and all the Transformers on board went offline, like every PC after 2 weeks, ever. When the volcano they crashed into erupted, it kick-started Teletran 1, who began restoring Skywarp. Skywarp made sure that only the Decepticons were rejuvenated, and they left the Ark and the Autobots behind, instead of destroying them while they were all incapacitated. Megatron decided to make it his mission to plunder the Earth of all of its resources, even though we already did that, enslaving the population, even though we already did that, and restoring Cybertron's former glory. We didn't do that. This conflict with the Autobots continued up until 2005, when Megatron and Prime clashed in the Battle of Autobot City. Prime was fatally wounded by Megs for the second time, but not without some serious damage to himself in the process. He was discarded into space by Starscream before bumping into Unicron, who changed him into Galvatron in order to help him secure the Autobot matrix of leadership. After this, the continuity split into numerous directions, but in the Headmasters cartoon, Galvatron was buried under ice by the Headmasters and returned as Super Megatron thanks to Dark Nova in the story pages of Fight Super Robot Lifeform Transformers The Battlestars. That's a lot of words. Megatron has a few different origins depending what comic continuity you follow. A gladiator from Tarn with a thirst for making Cybertron a feared war planet in the Marvel comics, and then samesies again in the Dreamwave stories. He was also a miner from Tarn that rose up to topple the corrupt government with the help of Orion Pax before betraying him and starting his own tyrannical reign in the IDW ongoing series. All said and done, he's pretty much always from Tarn, starts out with Just Cause and then gets power hungry, which we all know is basically an easy leap to maniacally evil as Hitler, internet trolls, Mrs. Brown's Boys, Bill Cosby, Joseph Fritzl, Swedish Fish Oreos, all banking customer service, antivirus software, Mandals, Age of Extinction, and the woman that threw a cat in a bin. But enough of that, what about Den Toys? The G1 mold saw a number of re-releases in the Japanese Convoy vs Megatron multipack in 1985, a Goodbye Megatron multipack in 1986 with Starscream, which was a little nod to the character's sort of passing in the 1986 movie. I've gone over this multiple times, but here you go again.
Wait, I still function.
Wanna bet?
A combo of the Takara and Hasbro versions was also reissued in 2001, as well as a black version in the same year and again in 2009. In 2003 it appears in the Transformers collection, in the Encore series in 2007, and finally for this mould, a G1 Megatron and Movie Megatron multi-pack in 2011. One of the main issues with Megatron in a toy retail sense is the fact that he turns into a realistic gun, a problem that wasn't an issue way back when, but became a problem in today's more sensitive society. Generation 2 sorted this out by changing Megatron's transformation into a tank. I will go into that history in more detail when we get the related Masterpiece release, and the same goes for the Beast Wars iterations and many of the other different jets, cars, trucks, and even sneaker modes he has had over the years. Coming back to the classic designs, in 1990 he gets an Action Master that doesn't transform, 2001 a Choro Q Robo in a TV version and a Black Deco version, in 2002 a tiny version of Megatron in gun form was included with Starscream for the Transformers collection that once again doesn't transform. A commemorative series unreleased Megatron design was shown at BotCon in 2002 that Hasbro attempted to get into stores based on the rather zany colour scheme, but that didn't work as stores were still wary about selling gun toys to children. In 2003 the 20th anniversary / Masterpiece Prime came with a Megatron gun accessory, followed by 6 other versions with numerous other Masterpiece figures. The gun has removable sight, silencer and stock, and also features a diagonal sliding split in the handle to allow the figures to hold him comfortably. He gets the smallest transforming Transformer on his own and in a multi-pack with Convoy in 2004. After the tanks, jets, T-Rexes and alligators, Hasbro found an interesting way to bring Megatron back to his roots in 2006. The Classics Voyager figure transformed into a gun based on the Nerf N-Strike Maverick Blaster, and then the following year saw a repaint in Japan for the Henkai range that went with the more classic colouring, and then even more so in 2010. In 2016 the same figure got a red redeco in the Platinum Edition One Shall Stand, One Shall Fall pack with Optimus Prime. 2007 Masterpiece MP5, designed in 12 days and scaled with the original MP1 Prime, this Megatron fell short of the perfect version of the character unfortunately. With a transformation so complicated, you need to incept into the designer's dreams, reverse engineer the technology, and then tattoo the instructions on your body a la Prison Break, just to get half of him looking like a gun barrel. It was almost a necessity that we got this new MP-36. The MP5 was redecoed in gold in 2014 and came with a non-transforming reflector figure. In 2010 we got a Legends version and a re-release in the Japanese Chronicle EZ collection, a small non-transforming figure included with the SDCC exclusive Metroplex in 2013, a Hero Masher and a Bear Brick in 2014, and a Headmaster for Galvatron in 2016. That brings us nicely to the newest version of the toy with this awesome masterpiece. The box is huge. Covered in awesome images of Meghead.
He's a smig.
On the back we have cartoon accurate bot mode and indeed pose, all the cool weapons and accessories from numerous cartoon episodes, and an actual size half Smegs on the left. Let's get inside this massive rectangular prison and release this silver fox. Or grey fox. Or just grey. We have another double layer like all of the best boxes of chocolates, just don't try and eat these, they taste like factory moulded plastic covered in paint. I tried them. In the bottom layer he comes with his extended barrel piece, foldable stock, key to Vector Sigma from the episodes The Key to Vector Sigma Part 1 and The Key to Vector Sigma Part 2, obviously, the Clone Control Helmet from the episode Clone Control Helmet, kidding, from the episode A Prime Problem, his energy dagger from the movie Battle with Prime, damaged chest panel that looks like a hippo sat on it from the movie Battle with Prime, pistol from the movie Battle with Prime that really reminds me of a NES zapper that I used to hunt ducks with, a purple jointed chain that can be used to dynamically pose the energy mace seen in More Than Meets the Eye Part 2 when he battles Prime. Man, those two need to just get a room and be done with it, and said energy mace with real chain. To complete this layer he also has a number of extra face plates, shouty with a hint of smiley with a hint of arousal, and I don't even want to describe this one, but let's just say egg-faced, hippo-crushed, and I still function despite being dropped noggin first onto a bag of hammers face. The next layer gives us the meat of the set, or for any vegans out there, the tofu. He has his scope/fusion cannon that you can add batteries to for a number of sound effects. LR44 button batteries do the trick, and you will have to unscrew the flap using a screwdriver, or something fashioned into a screwdriver if you're MacGyver. You can change what effects you want to hear by moving the red switch, another element of his cannon seen in the cartoon. There are 3 positions. The first gives you laser fire. The second gives you voice commands in Japanese. And the third is transformation sounds. Pretty cool. Although I would have loved to have seen some kind of light on this as well. Either the inside lighting up to see a transformer in the sights, or a red flash from the end of the cannon. It also doesn't work as a practical scope, a byproduct of including the sound effects module I would assume. Still, would have been nice to just see through it. And then there's actual Megatron. I must say, I think he is a significant improvement on the previous MP5. He looks extremely cartoon accurate right off the bat and feels way more solid than his predecessor, superbly proportioned and beautifully detailed with a stern and serious default faceplate. To finish off the contents, we have the obligatory Japanese QR code black hole, collector card with impressive stats bar the 4, which is presumably his villainous scheme practicality score, and his extensive instruction bible. I will need to follow this very closely now as I attempt to transform what is potentially one of the hardest transformations in history.
Decepticons, transform!
Well, okay. That was the hardest f***ing transformation I have ever had to perform. There are transgender operations that were easier than that.
Wow, that thing was on there.
All joking aside, that was tough, and I can't recall whether it was harder than the MP5 version of the character or not. I feel as though the transformation on the earlier model was so hard, I ended up half breaking parts of it when thin metal rods kept falling out. This one was tough and required a few contemplative moments, like flipping the legs/handles into place and lining up the trigger guard in the same motion. I feel as though that should have been one piece. Easy to say, of course, much harder to execute, so I understand if they had to go in that direction in order for it to work. This was degree in engineering hard, specifically small fictional robot engineering. It's like the guys that made him have access to Cybertronian technology and aren't letting us in on it. Once in gun mode, he looks fantastic and feels somewhat secure, but that could be the fact that he is on the chunky side.
How very day.
You always feel as though you are correcting parts of it or snapping elements in all the time. The handle is still quite large, but it's a huge improvement on MP5, so much so that you can actually run around your house pretending to be a special agent and you don't look like a tiny child holding an adult gun. You still look like a dick though, and you will be shot by the police if anyone reports it, especially here in the United States of he had a gun. Some versions of Megs have an orange tip on the gun barrel, this one does not. I'm f***ed. Anywho, great detailing all over the weapon with some neat little features. Spring action trigger, the hammer spur that can be cocked back or pushed in. A fake slide lock and release that doesn't move, mainly due to not having a magazine. The safety catch that does move and the authentic handle grip. The scope can be removed easily like so and placed back on, as well as extending the scope for the full gun mode experience. The extended barrel can be attached, but due to a lot of issues with the gun barrel paint scraping, I will only place it on the end without pushing it fully on. There's also the stock. Switch the sticky out piece around and fold it in using the button below and attach it to the back of the handle like so, sliding on through the grooves, and now we have the fully formed cartoon gun mode Megatron. This mode is beautiful looking, a much better scale, and includes the missing barrel and stock from the previous masterpiece. There are issues, of course. The transformation is hard and not at all intuitive. The extended barrel can cause paint rub issues on the tip of the regular barrel, and there's a constant feeling that it isn't all locked into place securely. Okay, now to the other features in robot mode, which means I have to transform him back. Sheesh. Yeah, that was harder, especially at the shoulder stage. Just couldn't work that out comfortably. Anyway, the fusion cannon slides onto the arm like so and locks in pretty strong. The proportions are perfect and of course relates to the multitude of times we see him with his massive arm gun in the cartoon. The fact that you can remove it, as obvious as that is, allows for recreations of certain moments from the show when he isn't bogged down with the Autobot killer forearm beast. The hand articulation is amazing. I love this design. I always struggle with Prime and Soundwave in this department, so it's fantastic to see such a cool design here. For one, it resembles the rather bloated hands he had in the show, and with way more secure joints, can be positioned easily for dramatic pointing poses. My favourite kind of finger move. This articulation allows Megs to hold his energy dagger, the same weapon used to cut Prime's lower left torso in the Battle of Autobot City. The energy element can also be removed for use as the blast from the pistol, used to finish Prime off in the same scene. His hands can also be removed for the installation of the energy mace. No wonder they need so much bloody energon. You can have the real chain that hangs loose or tough, depending on whether you're a fan of New Kids on the Block or not. Or you can have the more dynamically posed jointed chain that holds positions when you pose it. Very cool. He can hold the key to Vector Sigma from the two-parter episode with the same name. Megatron decides to build new Decepticons, specifically Breakdown, Wild Rider, Motormaster, Dragstrip and Dead End, who make up Menasor, but needs Vector Sigma, the computer that gave them life, to create their personalities. The key is vital in this, and once in his possession takes it to Earth. The Autobots follow the Decepticons to Cybertron, learn of Megatron's plot from Alpha Trion, and decide to combat the new Decepticons by creating their own new Autobots, specifically Silverbolt, Slingshot, Air Raid, Fireflight and Skydive, who combine to form Superion. When the key is dropped in the second part, it turns the organic ground metallic, which changes Megatron's plan. He instead wants to turn Earth into a new Cybertron. After a big combiner battle between Menasor and Superion, Omega Supreme turns up to turn the tide, and during the Decepticons' retreat, Silverbolt knocks the key from Megatron's hand, transforms to robot mode to destroy it in mid-air, and is saved in turn by Slingshot. The key is a nice touch for this figure, looks really good, has a good weight to it, and can be held easily thanks to the awesome hand articulation. He also has his clone control helmet from the episode A Prime Problem. Upon finding a crevasse full of corlonium crystals which destroy all electronic circuits on contact, Megatron and the Decepticons hatch a plan so ridiculously insane that basically involves scanning Prime holographically during an ambush, creating a perfect clone of him infiltrating the Autobots so that they would destroy the real Prime when he turned up. To control the clone, Megatron uses the helmet seen in this figure release, and it's a great reproduction of the accessory. It slips onto the head comfortably and rests in place, very detailed, and has the mic and antenna with yellow forehead deco. I like the fact it very loosely resembles the shape of Prime's head. We get a number of faceplates with this figure. When you remove his default head, it reveals the design we see when Unicron scans Megs in the movie prior to changing him into Galvatron, a process that's seen much easier than transforming this figure into a gun and back. It's probably just me, but I would have loved to have seen this part of the figure in a neon purple deco to really copy the colours seen in the film, but this is still freaking awesome. The faceplates slide off smoothly and stay on nice and strong, so the balance is pretty much perfect here. He can be open-mouthed angry, open-mouthed maniacally happy, or beaten to within an inch of his life, which coincides with his change of chest panelling. Not easy to slide off, as you have to get it right on both sides, and make sure his face is removed first so that you don't hit it and risk damage when you struggle to slide the chest off in the first place. I got away with it because his head was leaning back, but I have heard that this can happen, so be careful. In fact, he kind of has the design on his exposed chest as well, which is neat. Another neat feature, this toy seems to be packed with them, is that the stock can be turned into a flight stand. Split one of the stock legs in half and bend the main arm in the middle, then raise the adjustable connector using the button underneath and position the plastic connector so it slides up his bum. Now you can put him in cool positions like leaping backwards while firing his cannon, or flying as he so often did in the cartoon. The parts combine to make a telescopic laser cannon and a particle beam cannon, both of which were possible on the original G1 version of the toy. The telescopic laser cannon can be created by folding the barrel on the back down and twisting it into this position. Then you release the small peg on the extended barrel and rotate the fatter end down. That should loop onto the barrel at the back, and the peg hole should find the peg on the back of the right shoulder. Once that's in place, you can attach the scope to the barrel and Megatron can be blind during its use. I do love how this looks though. The particle beam cannon can be set up by splitting the fat end of the barrel again and attaching it to the stock section, which you will need to split at the base just like the flight stand. Line up the grooves and it should slide on easily. Slide the scope on and expose the handles on the sides to create this awesome weapon for Megatron to operate. He can also flip his gun barrel around so it faces forward under his arm as it did on the G1 toy. In conclusion, there are many things right with this guy, but on the other hand quite a few issues we need to address. I had to wait a little while longer for my Megatron, who got stuck in a postal black hole created when somebody tried to access the Japanese QR code on their phone at Royal Mail. Because of that wait, I saw many reactions from fans initially about the price. Closing in on £200 and surpassing $200 retail was a little too much for Masterpiece collectors to swallow and caused a small ripple of annoyance, but the main problem faced by owners of the toy was the paint rub on the barrel, an issue I avoided by not pushing the extended barrel fully on, and that was mainly due to seeing others suffer this issue before getting mine in hand. Aside from that, the other main issue is the complicated transformation. You just have to be careful and patient. Traits I am aware are not befitting a number of people in the toy collecting community. I suffer from that also from time to time, just not at the nuclear fusion cannon level of many others. Thank you, Internet. I don't understand the need to be rough with these figures at any stage really, and did experience someone saying that for that money they should be indestructible. That is a strange logic when you also want perfect articulation, features galore and a perfect paint job. There's a reason they cost a lot. I agree that something as obvious as the friction between the barrels should have been picked up during testing, but overall it's not that big a deal for me, he says, not pushing his barrel on fully. I was a little surprised not to see lights included in the cannon effects, and very surprised that the scope didn't work as its namesake, although it's not like the nuclear fusion cannon works as a nuclear fusion cannon, otherwise lots of nerds would have less fingers. In gun mode, I was never truly satisfied with the final form, as it felt like I was eternally pushing bits in and lining parts up. There is very little margin for error in the transformation there. However, he looks wonderful in both modes, is truly solid and I would argue perfect in his robot form, has more features on show than a multiplex cinema, has a great paint scheme reminiscent of the animated series, so therefore I will expect a chrome-like repaint version to resemble the G1 toy at some point, and he is packed to the absolute brim with accessories. His posability is fantastic, and when he's with MP-10 I get all tingly in my bash hat. Don't worry, I've been to the doctor, and he said it's more than meets the eye.
I don't get it. Neither do I.
He is a major improvement
Major buzzkill
on his predecessor in so many ways, but is just a touch
You got the touch!
from being the perfection erection we all expected when images appeared on the tinterwebs many months ago. I love this masterpiece, there are minor shortcomings, but overall he is sensational. No Meg's currently in stock at www.idtoys.co.uk, but more will be coming in soon, so make sure you keep an eye on the site, Facebook page and brand new Instagram account. Alternatively, you can find us at a number of shows throughout the year, or even, perish the thought, visit the shop at the Dixon Shopping Centre in Norwich on the Reefham Road. If Nick or Mass speak to you at the shop at all, tell an adult immediately.
Then this man came up and said, would I like to see some puppies? And I said yes, and I was going to go, but Charlie stopped me. Charlie's reminded me, my mum says I shouldn't go off with people I don't know. Then the man went away.
Thanks for watching this review, and be sure to catch me doing this again very soon for the MP-10 reissue of Convoy or Optimus Prime, and many more Masterpiece figures. And a special thank you to the Spacebridge for providing some of the video footage for today's review. Make sure you visit their page by searching at the Spacebridge on Facebook. I have been Chris McLeod, and you have been waiting a very long time for this 100% free content that costs me a fortune to produce.